host Renee Kranz. I have two guests today. One, Dr. Chris Burgwald in the studio with me.
Every day.
Hello. And I have Michael Pauley, the Executive Director of the South Dakota Catholic Conference on Zoom with us. Hello, Michael.
Hello, great to be with you.
Yes, these are two gentlemen who, one is our theology expert, the other is our politics expert. So I wanted to bring them together today.
Is this Thanksgiving dinner?
This is, I know, it almost seems like, where's the rest of the family?
Theology and politics together.
Yes. Oh, man. Whew. No one's having a good meal.
No, Michael and I will be.
That's true. That's true. I'll have a good meal with
Yes,
you.
you will.
Okay, so wanted to talk about, we're going to talk about natural rights and natural law and what those mean, what the church teaches about them, why they matter, and then we're going to bring those into the world of politics. And the reason we're bringing this up, recently, Senator Tim Kaine, and I want to be clear here, this is not about a party. This is about a thing that was said that actually I probably have heard from either party, frankly. And I want to make sure that we all understand the truth behind the actual definitions of these things. So recently, Senator Tim Kaine made some comments in a Senate hearing about the idea that rights come from the government and laws rather than our Creator. He even compared that idea to rights coming from rights coming from God to the Iranian regime and how they use those natural rights supposedly to harm others under their rule. A couple days later, Senator Kaine actually wrote a column to clarify his statements. I'm not really sure it helped, and we will. I know Dr. Burgwald will address that briefly, I'm sure. But he also mentions arbitrarily defined natural rights, which I think is important to explain what he means by that and why that is also problematic. So then we're going to talk about, how, of course, what the church teaches about these, how we came to know them, and then we're going to look at the political side and talk about why these matter in our country and in our government and in how we live, because it's actually very foundational to who we are as Americans, and because of that, probably to the whole world. That was a lot. That was a big introduction that I do not usually do, but I wanted to kind of place that, why we're doing this. So, Chris, will you start? And Michael Pauley, please feel free to jump in anywhere. But Chris, will you start by defining natural rights and natural law, what they are?
Yeah, so there's something called, in the world of like moral philosophy, ethics, that sort of universe, thought universe, there's this what's called the natural law tradition, or the idea of the natural law. Mm-hmm. And then just real quick, so natural rights are sort of just a modern articulation, especially, frankly, in an American context. Yeah. We talk a lot about our rights, mm-hmm. So that's sort of an application of the natural law theory or tradition to the way that we speak in modern American political discourse.
So sort of the same thing, but not
it's sort of
entirely.
The same. Yeah, there's some nuances, but
okay.
When you hear natural rights, so the person who's speaking about it is usually referring or thinking of the natural law and its application. Okay. The natural law, the tradition of the natural law, is ancient, as in ancient Greece, ancient. It predates Christianity. Right. It arose in ancient Greece at the same time, but in no real connection with the Bible, the Old Testament, the Israelites, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It arose among it was especially defined by thinkers like Plato and Aristotle, mm-hmm. to articulate their understanding of what they saw by using, frankly, their reason alone, right. and just looking at what it means to be human. Right. Now, they weren't perfectly accurate in everything that they theorized, but that's really where the origins came from. Ancient Greek philosophy reflecting on the nature of the world around us, right. on the nature of the human person, and concluding that there is an order to, frankly, everything, mm-hmm. that everything has an inherent purpose, including the human person. And just to use like ordinary everyday language, the essence of the natural law, going back to the Greeks and including in its Catholic articulation, the New Testament tradition and the church's tradition since then, basically it's the idea that we have an end, a purpose, and that we are fulfilled by acting in accord with that end or that purpose. That
Right.
by end, I mean like the goal
Right.
that we're
Right.
after. Now, as Christians, we know we can name what that goal is. It's
Right.
Jesus Christ.
Yes.
It's divine beatitude with God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and the rest of the human angels and saints and so on. We can name that in a way that the ancient Greeks couldn't. So we're able to actually complete sort of the foundation that they laid, but they had the essence of it right. So the natural law tradition is this idea that there are, and natural rights, that by virtue of what I am as a human being, as a person, I have certain, to use a word familiar to hopefully most all Americans, but most at least, inalienable rights, rights that cannot be taken away from me because they're inherent to me as a human being and as a human person.
Right. And are the only inalienable rights life, liberty, and the pursuit
Well, I
of
would.
happiness?
I'd quibble a little bit with with Thomas Jefferson's specific articulation, especially around the pursuit of happiness. But no,
Because they do say among those are.
So,
So,
so there's
we know that's
many.
not all of them.
Correct. That's
Right.
definitely not all of them.
Right.
And it's not just the right to pursue happiness. I have the ability to be to be happy,
Right.
to be fulfilled, regardless of whether or not I have the legal freedom to pursue
Right.
it. That's a little bit of the quibble.
Right.
But the point, that little quibble notwithstanding, there are many natural rights which flow from my identity simply as a human person.
Right.
Now, again, a Christian context recognizes this is because I'm created in the image and likeness of God.
Yes.
It's because of that they have these rights. But you don't need to be a Christian or, frankly, a theist at all. You have to believe in God
Right.
to believe in the natural law tradition and the rights that flow from it.
Right. Okay. Michael, you have anything to add to that, or are we?
No, I guess just the only thing I would add is that, in our Catholic tradition, one of the earliest thinkers who articulated this concept, even before Thomas Jefferson, before Locke, was a Spanish Jesuit theologian and philosopher by the name of Francisco Suarez, who articulated, and it is a great book called De Legibus, meaning the laws, that said that there's this concept of a right which man has as his own, and he can exercise in his own name, and so the Catholic tradition has contributed a lot to this, developing this concept of the inalienable natural rights.
Right. Okay, so how do they play into our Catholic faith? Because one place I can think of right off the bat is, for instance, when we're talking about marriage and the ends of marriage. Like,
Sure.
the natural law kind of shows that the ends of marriage are unitive and procreative.
Right.
So is that kind of one example, and there are many others
So
for our faith?
what we, as Catholics, we believe that, I'm not sure about all, but at least most of what we know to be virtues and vices, good actions and bad actions, we can know what's right and wrong, again, on the basis of our reason alone. Now, because we're fallen creatures, because we're not all wicked smart like Suarez or Thomas Aquinas or Michael Pauley, we don't always know what the right thing to do is.
Right.
And therefore, God helps us by clarifying that in what is divine revelation. But it's all there, frankly, in if we simply self-reflect if we think critically, we can recognize the vast majority of what we call sins. We can know that they're bad for us simply by thinking about what does it mean to be human, and how I ought to act in accord with my nature as a human being.
Yeah.
Now, again, a lot of people would not actually be able to do that because we're not that self-reflective. We don't necessarily think that well. The point, though, is it's possible to arrive at that.
Yeah.
So the natural law is really deeply embedded within our Catholic moral tradition.
Yeah.
Again, it's the Bible, divine revelation, scripture, and tradition help clarify and illuminate it very clearly, so all of us, regardless of how smart or not we are able to live that way. But it's possible to know it that way.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So the statement that Senator Kane made, and let's just if anyone actually made this statement, because you maybe don't understand it, and some people agree with it. How is it incorrect?
Okay.
Because he basically said, I'm going to paraphrase this. I do not have it in front of me, so forgive me if I get it a little wrong. Do you have it in front of you?
I don't right now.
Okay.
I do.
Oh, good. Oh, Michael Pauley, always ready.
Do you want me to read it so we can set up the
Sure.
topic?
Yes.
that'd be
yes.
This is a direct quote. He said the notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the creator, that's what the Iranian government believes. It's a theocratic regime that bases its rule on Shia law. And then he goes on to talk about how the government targets Sunnis, Baha'is, Jews, Christians, and other religious minorities. So he directly equates belief in the concept of inalienable rights with the theocratic regime of Iran.
Yeah.
And I think Michael, didn't he preface that before that? He said he was appalled by the notion that our rights come from anything but the government.
He said, yeah, his direct words, I find that very troubling.
I find that very troubling.
Yes.
His
Okay.
comment, yeah.
So I find what he said very troubling. So there's a great
I
book,
agree.
Michael, and so Charles Rice, God rest his soul, was a law professor at Notre Dame for decades. He passed away in the aughts or the teens maybe, but he wrote a book back in the late 90s called 50 Questions About the Natural Law. And it's a fantastic book, very easy to read. Michael, have you read it by chance? Have you ever come across it?
I've not had the pleasure,
Okay,
no.
So, and he begins by going to the Nuremberg trials.
Oh.
And he begins, because I thought of this almost immediately after I think you brought my attention to this clip from Senator Kaine. And I know, I understand where Senator Kaine is coming from, but he's not thinking through really, in my opinion, what he's saying. Because the Nazis who were on trial in Nuremberg appealed to, we were just following the laws of our government.
Right.
And the court, those who were holding them to account for their actions said, Anna, that's no, that you cannot simply say, well, the government said the Jews didn't have rights, the Catholics didn't have rights, the whoever didn't have rights. That's not good, because there are rights. There is this whole natural law tradition. To be human means to have certain rights.
Right.
So ironically, and again, he did not realize this, but Senator Kaine was and continues to make the same sort of arguments that the Nazis made when they were on trial for their war crimes after World War II. Senator Kaine is not a Nazi. I'm not saying that whatsoever.
No.
But he's making the same kind of argument when he's saying that basically he's saying the government is the source of our rights. And World War II demonstrates the very problematic nature of that view. And Bishop Barron pretty quickly and clearly criticized Senator Kaine's remarks by pointing out that behind that there is a sure foundation, which we can know by our reason alone, that our rights are, again, Thomas Jefferson, inalienable and given to us by our Creator. And that's precisely why a government cannot take them away.
Right.
If rights, this is why I'm getting passionate. Senator Kaine, you don't realize what you're saying, because if rights come from the government, if the government grants me my rights, they can sure take them away. That's not what you intend, but that is the consequence of what you're saying.
Yeah, and we've actually seen that in our own country with slavery.
Absolutely.
We saw that
part of the great irony also of his remarks.
Yeah. Okay. That was very passionate.
I know.
I like it.
Michael, I'm just curious your thoughts on that question.
Yeah, please.
Well, yeah. I think where Senator Kaine failed is by not drawing a distinction between inalienable rights and what we might call extrinsic rights. So for example, the right to life would be the quintessential inalienable right, which we have just by virtue of being human, of being made by God. But then we also have rights that are, some philosophers would use the language extrinsic rights, or some would call them positive rights because they come from the positive law. And these can be very important things, like, for example, the right to vote. The right to vote, as important as it is, this is not a natural right. You don't just come out of the womb, with a right to vote. That is a right that we have granted to us politically. And to emphasize the point you just made, Chris, the right to vote can be taken away. In many states, if you commit a felony, you lose your right to vote. In a lot of states, I think including ours in South Dakota, if you're declared mentally incompetent, your right to vote, can be revoked. And so that's just an example where Senator Kane, he has sort of a point that some of our rights really do come from the positive statutory laws, that are created by government. But what he was criticizing, the testimony that he received in committee, was very clearly talking about the natural inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The nominee that he was taking to task made it abundantly clear that he was talking about the rights specified, in the Declaration of Independence. So sorry, packing in a lot there, but that's a distinction that seems to be jumbled in Senator Kane's mind.
Yeah.
And to just that's a crucial distinction. Thank you for making that clear, Michael. And the irony to me is even specifically with positive law, so law that government grants, like the right to vote, which can be taken away. That's actually where positive law is arbitrary in a way that the Iranian regime's laws are arbitrary. I mean, there's nothing inherently right or wrong with whether or not to grant somebody the right to vote. For example, if a government wants to pass a law saying if you're left-handed you can't vote, it can do that.
Right.
If you're right-handed you can't vote. It can do that. But that's arbitrary.
Right.
And ironically, he's trying to compare the natural law tradition to the arbitrary Iranian regime.
Right.
But his view, which is all positive law all the time, no natural law, that's actually just as arbitrary as the Iranian view.
Right. So is he? How is he incorrect about comparing it to Iran? Can you one of you?
I'll give it a shot first. Okay. Again, going back to the origins of the natural law tradition, how do I know that I have these rights? By thinking about it, as I said earlier, by reflection. I don't need to have it revealed to me by God. Now, again, he has, and I'm very grateful for that. We all should be. But I don't need to believe in Jesus Christ or the Bible or the Catholic Church to know that I have these inherent rights.
Right.
The Iranian approach is frankly, because God said so. Because as we understand the content of the Quran, this is what's going to be. It's not based on reasoning.
Right.
It's simply based on in their understanding of the application of their religious doctrine to community political life.
Right. And our country is not set up that way.
Right.
So then that brings me, Michael, to why does it matter that our country was founded on natural law?
Well, yeah, I mean, it matters in so many different and profound ways, but to kind of bring it to the point of what we're talking about here today, let's focus on the Declaration of Independence, kind of marking the beginning of this project we call the United States of America. So the words that were in the Declaration of Independence, and let's just read them together. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And it goes on from there. But again, I think, when we talk about the significance of getting this understanding right, it's the fact that the Declaration of Independence is stating that government does not grant you these rights. Rather, governments are instituted for the purpose of protecting those rights. So government can violate your natural rights, and sadly, we've seen examples of that, but they can't take them away because they belong to you by your very nature. So that's just, a crucial distinction that seems to be lost on the good senator from Virginia.
Yeah, and I believe we were the first country to ever spell that out. Is that correct? And maybe the only. I don't know.
So far, well, I don't think the only, but certainly, certainly so far as I know, the first.
Yeah. Okay. We have 2 or 3 minutes left. So as we're recording this, and this will run the same weekend we're recording it, so we're at a time in our country where we've seen about a week or two of some very disturbing, bad things happen. We're recording this on September 11th, the anniversary of 9/11, the 24th anniversary, 24th, 26th, 24th. 24th. And everything's very heavy. there's so much division and violence that we see in our country right now. I feel like this is tied together, this to a degree, this misunderstanding of where we get our rights, especially our inalienable rights. Michael, can you help us with this for a minute?
Sure. Well, I'll take a shot with it.
Okay.
We only have a little bit of time, so
Yeah.
whatever answer I give will probably be inadequate. But I think I think just in general, looking at some of the political violence that we saw occur this week with the murder of Charlie Kirk and other things that we've seen, it's we're losing a respect for the fundamental dignity of each and every human person. And
Yes.
so I think that's the connection here, is that we're losing our connection with this foundational principle of that inalienable right to life. And it manifests itself in so many different ways in our country. The acceptance of abortion, the acceptance of suicide and euthanasia, and now, sadly, the acceptance of political violence to accomplish your purposes. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I can have all the answers and cite them off in 1 minute, but I'll tell you one thing is that silencing and marginalizing voices of people of faith, which I think is kind of what we saw happening in this Senate hearing room, where we had a senator basically trying to marginalize this very notion that our rights come from God. That's not helping.
Right.
Whatever else the other solutions are, we can say that's not helping when we try to silence people of faith who are trying to teach these principles and teach the moral law to our citizens.
Yeah, agreed. Chris, you have anything to add to that? I know you're only taking your own. You're only taking your own time from the front end. So.
I'm going to echo Michael very briefly. We need to recognize the inherent goodness and dignity. So this is my mild critique with a lot of rights talk in our country. I have rights. I have responsibilities
Yes.
as well. And
Yes.
I have every one of us has a fundamental responsibility to acknowledge and recognize and uphold the dignity and the rights of every other human being, as Michael said.
Right.
And we're getting away from that, and we're othering other human
Yes,
beings.
yes.
As a human species continues to do, but as so many people have said, I thought we were better than this.
Right.
Whether it was the shooting in Minneapolis a couple weeks ago, or the murder of Charlie Kirk just a few days ago, I thought we were better than this. Well, we can be, but it starts by acknowledging the dignity of everyone, no matter how much I disagree with them, no matter how abhorrent I find their views to be. They have unalienable rights, and I need to acknowledge and defend them.
Yeah. Okay. That was all very good, and I hope very helpful for people. Thank you both for talking about this with me today. Sometimes this stuff is a little bit of a sticky wicket when you're trying to talk about it.
Faith in politics.
Yep. I think we did a good job. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you.
Let's just go out and try to respect each other, love each other, maybe pray a little more. Just find a way to have respect for everybody regardless of their views, and bring God into your life as much as you can. So that's it for us today. Hope you'll join us again next week for more Catholic Views.